In the last chapter we got involved in a bit of pranayama theory, but now it's back to business. In response to Vasishta's questions, 1, in the infinite consciousness, how did duality arise? And 2, how does that duality, which has been strengthened by eons of confirmation, cease? The Lord continued. And the Lord here is Shiva. Vasishta's talking about a period of time when he was devoted to Lord Shiva. So the Lord continued. Since that omnipresent infinite consciousness alone is present at all times, diversity, duality, is absurd and impossible. The concept of one arises when there is a concept of two, and vice versa. When the diversity is realized as of consciousness, the diversity is also that. The cause and effect are one in their essence. This essence is indivisible. Consciousness, being its own object, is consciousness at all times. The modifications are but vain thinking. This is it. This is the story. This is what we get caught up in. There's only consciousness. How can you say that there's anything unless you're aware of it? How can you say that there's a you, a me, a world, a thought, unless there's awareness of it? There has to be awareness of all these things. So awareness here is like a mirror, which has got lots of things reflecting in it. But the mirror forgets it's a mirror and starts identifying with its reflections. And the mirror is completely unchanged by what is being reflected in it. So the mirror is one thing, and yet it starts believing that all the diversity that's reflected in it are what it is, or what's true. And so we start making up stories of cause and effect, and it's just basically all patterns going around, which we put some order onto. This is what we do. This is our function as human beings, to make sense of things, to see patterns, to make stories. This is how we navigate through our lives, with stories. Stories are our vehicles for making sense of the chaos within which we find ourselves. We got stories of all kinds. We got stories of culture, of society, of who we are, of religion, of science, of psychology and philosophy and spirituality. These are all stories. But there's only awareness. And there's a note in parenthesis here. To assert that there are waves upon the surface of the ocean is like saying mountains made of water float upon the surface of the ocean. Are there waves outside the ocean? Yes, we say there are waves on the ocean, don't we? But we might as well say there are mountains, because we're making out that that's something different from the ocean. We identify these diverse aspects and we give them independence, but they're not independent. Consciousness alone is that. This, and in the middle, the factor that perceives the modification. So that, this, and in the middle is like saying there's a sight which I see, there's me seeing it, so that's that, the sight is that, there's me seeing it is this, and in the middle is the seeing. But the thing is, there is only the seeing. This is the factor that perceives the modification, the seeing. It is the one infinite consciousness that is variously known as Brahman, truth, God, Shiva, void, one, and supreme self. That which is beyond all these forms and states of consciousness, that which is the supreme self, that which is indicated by the pure I, that is not for words to describe. That which is perceived here is itself indivisible. And that's when we realize the awareness within which everything is being reflected. When this consciousness invests itself with a secondary vision, and the word here apparently is Upanayana, which also means the sacred thread of Vedic learning, then it perceives duality. So when this consciousness invests itself with Upanayana, even the sacred thread of Vedic learning, then it perceives duality. And it is bound by its own ignorant imagination. This imagination gives rise to substantiality, and the experience of objects gives rise to the confirmation of the reality of that object. The ego science gains credence thereafter and is firmly established, assuming the role of the doer of actions and the experiencer of other experiences. Thus, what was accidental coincidence to begin with soon becomes an established fact. When you keep telling a story over and over again, it's difficult not to think in terms of that story, not to accept it as some kind of fundamental truth. It's like the belief that money has actually got value. If there was a horrible war which destroyed society, these bits of paper that we call money would become totally valueless. But we believe when we've got a piece of paper money in our hand that we've got something of value. It makes us feel good inside to have it. It becomes an established fact because it's been continually reinforced that this piece of paper has monetary value. Belief in the existence of the goblin creates it. Belief in the duality, diversity, establishes it. When the non-dual being is known, the duality vanishes instantly. Belief, or imagination, gave rise to diversity. When that belief is dropped, diversity goes. Thought, imagination, or belief gives rise to sorrow. To abandon such thinking is not painful. It is feeding these thoughts and beliefs that has brought about this sorrow. This comes to an end by not entertaining those thoughts and beliefs. Where is the difficulty in this? It's so obvious that everything we believe is a story. It can give us pleasure, but it's ultimately what causes us suffering and limitation. These stories have their functions, but let's be quite clear about these functions and the role that they play. All thoughts and beliefs lead to sorrow, whereas no thought and no belief are pure bliss. Therefore, with the help of the fire of wisdom, vaporize the waters of your beliefs and become peaceful, supremely blissful. Behold the one infinite consciousness. Look at what all these beliefs are arising within. It is only as long as the king remains forgetful of the fact, I am king, that he is miserable. Once he regains that knowledge, that sorrow vanishes. Even as after the rainy season, when the winter season has set in, the sky is unable to collect clouds to veil itself. Once the infinite consciousness is realized, the clouds of ignorance are banished forever. Once you're in the realization of the nature of your own consciousness, there's no room for ignorance anymore. There's no room for believing in the truth of your beliefs.